For today's cookies, I'm going to begin by dumping an entire bag of royal icing straight into the mixer. I use a whip attachment. The mix already has the powdered sugar and meringue distributed throughout. I'm going to add 1/3 cup of water to the icing. You want the royal icing to be a matte finish, so don't stop too early. Don't stop when it's glossy. Go for a matte finish. For the 4 cookies that we're making in today's set, we're only going to need about 6 ounces of icing. You're going to want to put the plastic wrap over the icing that you're not using and press down. Try to force the air out and create a barrier. Air can cause the icing to crust, which can make it difficult to work with. And now moving on to work with our Isomalt nibs that we will be using to make our glass panes of our snow globes. You'll need a silicone work mat for this. You could also potentially use an aluminum sheet with a really thin layer of vegetable oil covering it, something to help make it non-stick, but a silicone pad is going to do the best job. To melt the Isomalt, we need to slowly bring our Isomalt nibs up to 340 degrees. This helps prevent recrystallization and keeps it really clear. So we're going to put our Isomalt in the microwave for 30 seconds, then stir, microwave again, then stir. We repeat this process until it appears to be boiling and is super bubbly. Or we could use a thermometer if we want to be more professional. We repeat this process until it appears to be boiling and super bubbly. We could use a thermometer now to check that it's at 340 degrees. Before we start, let's make sure we have everything ready. Royal icing, our cookies, some spoons, icing bags, some bowls, and a toothpick. While I'm setting myself up and getting ready, we're going to let the Isomalt slowly cool a little bit. You'll see most of the bubbles clear the top, and the mixture becomes clear, but still runny. This is the perfect time to pour. So let's start pouring into our heart first for practice. You want a nice thin pane, and you want to take the back of your spoon and press it against the edge of the cookie. Push that Isomalt all the way up to the edge of the cookie so it connects. Now let's start preparing our icings while our Isomalt here cools. Take a small spoonful, put it in one of our mixing bowls. Make sure to recover your icing to prevent it from crusting. This icing is going to be in between a flood consistency and a stiff consistency. We want something that kind of marries the two. I'm going to be adding spritzes of water from a spray bottle to change the consistency. This is the easiest way to control it. Of course, you could just as easily use teaspoons of water. For this one, I put 4 sprays in and then use the back of my spoon like a spatula to press the water into the royal icing. I'm going to add a little more icing just in case we need it, and I'll add a little more water as well. Now this icing, it's a little more loosened up, but still has texture to it. We can put this into one of our piping bags. Once that is in our bag and tied off, we can move on to our colored flood consistency icings. Let's start with this pretty blue color. I prefer to add my coloring first, since it has water within the mix. Then I add spritzes of water to slowly bring the consistency up to the just right level. Put a few drops of color in, then mash it with the back of your spoon to work it in thoroughly. Smashing also helps remove some of the air bubbles that are in there. To test the consistency of your icing, press all of the icing to the bottom of the bowl, make a little pile. Then take the back of the spoon and scoop that spoon upward along the bowl to create a valley. Then shake the bowl and make the valleys come together. If the valleys and mountains come together too quickly, then it's actually a little too loose, and you can always add just a little bit more icing to make it thicker. If it doesn't move much at all, then maybe it's a little too thick, so we need to add a few more spritzes of water. Once it's perfect, put that icing in your piping bag, tie it off, and we'll start our next icing. You'll do the same process as the last time, except we aren't going to add any more color than what's already left over in the bowl, so we can make a really light shade of the same colored icing. But we want it to be just as thin in consistency. This will be used for accents, little odds and ends, little details. Okay, bag that one, set it to the side, and we'll start on our next icing color, red. Don't be afraid to use more red coloring than you think you need. If you don't use enough, then the color might actually be a little bit on the pinkish side. Go ahead and add a few extra drops, make it nice and dark. Our cookies with the Isomalt are finally ready to peel off. Once the Isomalt has cooled, we just reach behind the silicone mat and gently peel it in a sideways angle away from the cookie. Okay, flip your cookie, put your window pane upside down in order to make room for the sprinkles in the hole of the cookie. Put your sprinkles in, but make sure to leave enough space so that you can shake it. Put a ring of stiff icing around the edge to secure the back to the other cookie. Now give it a shake. Our snow globe is finally taking shape. Okay, let's get to decorating it. First, I do an outline of red on the whole top half. Then I add a line of lighter icing into our darker icing while it's still wet to add a little bit of light reflection effect. Now let's use the little heart that we cut out to make room for the window pane. Start with your darker blue, make a little heart. Then use your red color to trace around it. Take a toothpick, drag straight down the split to really give it some emphasis. Now, if you take your lighter blue and add some dots of icing, wet on wet technique, you can then drag your toothpick down to make some little hearts. Basically start at the top of the dot and pull down to create a little tail, a little point at the end. Now, like I said, all of this is called wet on wet technique, which just means it all has to be done before the icing starts to set up. So you start with one color, immediately put another color in, and then you can use your toothpick to change the shape. Let's add a little pearl border around our heart snow globe. Turn your bag to the side instead of up and down, and then pipe a small ball. Then move away, then squeeze another ball onto the tip of the last one. And just repeat this action all the way around. Add a little sprinkle heart to this and we are done. If you liked what you saw in this video and you want to know more or see how I decorated the rest of these cookies, please consider becoming a member of our Patreon page. Not only do you help support me and our business, but it comes with all sorts of cool perks for you as well. Visit patreon.com/artisinCakes. Thanks for watching.